Brian Studley here from Biotech Orthotic Design. Happy to announce that we have a great partnership with a Portugal company for custom footwear named Nimco. Nimco offers a great opportunity, a great alternative to clinicians in regard to their MCO line, which also can complement the present bespoke line. I'm going to take this video to show you a little bit about how we do things in our clinical practice that might make things a little easier for you when you're dispensing custom footwear to your patients. The great thing about using the Nimco product is that it utilizes an app that you can download on your iPad scanner, and for those presently using an occipital scanner, it totally complements that. So there's less dragging gear around and whatnot that makes it hard, especially if you have remote clinics. When we see patients, one of the best benefits of the MCO line is the fact that we can actually make our own orthotic for it. So you can use Biotech as a lab service, or if you like to make your own orthotics, you can use your own orthotics for it. It allows the clinician to have that much more control. So you do a typical assessment that would be for custom foot orthotics, as you normally do. We add a few extra things with it that are definitely within the realm of an orthopedist and a foot care specialist. One, we would take some extra measurements, your typical Brannick device measurements, because we want to see the American sizing, or the North American sizing, sorry, as it compares to the European sizing. And these other measurements will also help us to complement our existing and to double check that our scanning is doing what we want it to do. We have this nice little kit, a startup kit from Nimco, that will give you a little bit of an idea of how to use it. It's a fairly straightforward kit that has some great little tools in it. Comes with a nice little starter kit, some technical information, and different types of catalogs that you can show to your patients. Of course, it always comes with a nice leather swatch so the patient can understand the product, a trial fitting shoe, and some scanning plates. We're going to show you we're going to focus a little bit more on the actual foot scanning plate itself, which is a nice little plate that's transportable back and forth to your clinic, and we'll get into that a little bit further. Before we get into the actual assessment part, or the actual sizing part of what we're doing, I'd like to demonstrate a little bit of this little sizing model. And basically what happens at Nimco with the MCO line of footwear is the measurements we're going to be taking, the whole goal is to establish the last that we're going to start with. And there's various different options that are available in regard to last comparison for our patients. Nimco will then take the last manufacturing, the last that is chosen best for your patient, and then we'll modify the last. And so as you can see, that once we have chosen the proper last of the foot, the computer program allows the clinician to have control over up to 14 different areas in the footwear itself, into the last, to do modifications. And some of these have various different variables of correction that you can add, whether it's areas for more support for hallux valgus, or more room for hammer toes. You can have a little more room for a more thicker orthotic. There's all different areas that are very applicable to your patient need that allow you to modify that positive cast of the patient's foot, and will also be reflected in the pattern that it's designed. Now we'll introduce the actual scanning foot plate kit that Nimco provides. It's a great measuring tool. The scans that we're doing right now are actually measuring the foot electronically. This is not the three-dimensional scan part of it. You would download the app, as we discussed. It's a very simple app. In this case, we'd hit the right foot, and it would come up with the scanning design. We'd simply, at this point, we would hit. Okay, so now we'll use the actual kit that Nimco. It's a measuring kit that's designed to take electronic measurements of the patient's foot. And we'll just start with the Nimco app that's already been preloaded, of course, and then we're going to go down to the right foot. Now the right foot will we'll be doing a profile scanning. So I'm going to hit the profile, and then we'll hit auto capture, and then we're going to line the foot up. We get the alignment the way we want it, and then we'll teach you, of course, how these measurements, and these are just taking strategic measurements in the right spots, would help work with the clinician to make sure they fully understand this part. And that is taking the side profile measurements that we're looking at. So now we're going to change the measurements we're taking. Simply now going to do the imprint, which is a bird's eye view of the patient's foot. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll do an imprint of the foot. And obviously we don't have a real foot here, but it gives, for practical reasons, and we'll take a tracing of the patient's foot. And as this is a model, it's a little bit unique in its shape, but it gives you the right ideas for demonstration purposes. One thing that's really sharp about this system, see, we take off, we have the outline. One thing that's really sharp about this is that when the patient's standing on this, it's a thermal type of aluminum, so it actually creates a pedograph. And so you can see the pressure points and whatnot that's activated by heat, and we will be taking an imprint of that, and it's a great way to transfer more information to the lab when manufacturing. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our imprint. We'll simply hit the imprint button, and we'll get auto capture. And at this point, we will adjust again, more things that we will show how the user how to use these kits. We'll adjust the strategic measurements of where things are going to be aligned. Now we'll use the 3D scanning option that's available on the occipital scanner and the Nimco app. This is an accurate scanner which will capture the plantar aspect of the foot, and as you see, the clinicians can capture the medial aspect of the foot, travels on to the lateral aspect of the foot. Over to the dorsum. And then onto the posterior aspect of the foot. And although there's still some moving around, some contouring around that needs to happen, we still see that we capture a three-dimensional cast of the patient's leg. There may be some hollow spots that the lab may work at, or you may even choose to rescan if you're not satisfied with it, but it's a much easier way to scan than using our traditional STS socks or plaster slippers. So now that we've taken all of our foot sizing measurements, you see here that we'll get a summary. It gives you the basic lengths, widths, joint circumferences, cone circumferences, toe height, insteps, whatnot. And it will give, in this case we only did the right foot, so it will give us some suggested last dimensions that include like widths and lengths that they would normally like to start with. We have input on that, of course, as a clinician, and there's also some technical input that we can utilize through Nimco themselves. We can have some input in any type of oversizing that we want to do, or if we want to go with a normal last versus a broken last. Broken last basically means that you have that narrower heel versus the wider heel. So again, we're measuring the foot itself combined with the three-dimensional cast that we've taken of the foot. And in this situation, we just save our data and we get ready to order the actual shoe itself. So now that we have the foot measurements taken, the three-dimensional cast also taken and ready to order, we now have the opportunity to actually do the technical work order. Biotech would set you up with an account at Nimco, and so we'll kind of go through that. So we get on the page itself. In this case, we're going to work on the MCO orders. We'd hit order, and it would come up with your catalog. We'll go into the man's catalog. And you can see here that you have all the different options that are available in their MCO line, and there's fairly quite a lot of nice options for you. We'll just take the first one for convenience sake. And what you'll see now is that you'll see a situation in which all the dimensions, the colors, the trim lines, the lining and lacings, all the cosmetic aspect of it, you have full control over. But let's presume that the patient now is comfortable with this design, but keep in mind that you can go to this customize section. This customize section now will allow you to change the colors and have great amount of options to have that unique look that the patient wants. And so again, it doesn't necessarily increase the medical application of the device, but it definitely would increase the compliance of the patient as they're wearing shoes that they love rather than those typical grandma shoes. So we'll now order the shoe. We simply go into order. And this is where the true manufacturer of footwear is going to be interested. It'll give you all the different types of materials that are being used into your footwear. It'll also have some proprietary information that you would have influence, which would take the time to teach you and how to use this, how to use the order form itself. So it looks a little daunting at first, but it really is well within the normal scope of a typical foot specialist's education. But some of the simple things, actually, if you take a look at, say, the hallux valgus, so we want to take a look, we can adjust that. Maybe I want to put 8 millimeters of adjustment in there. You see that little design, and we rotate it around, and we have that adjustment. Maybe we want to add some more depth for the hammer toes. Again, you see that. We've added that extra depth to the foot itself also. So we can view all those things. And as we talked about before, there's countless options that are available for your patients to have those uppers fully modified to your patient's need for that custom foot. You can go down, we can load files, which include pictures and whatnot. We can do external modifications to the shoes that can create more correction itself. So and then once that is complete, we simply order it, and in about 6 to 8 weeks, you should be able to get your new custom shoes for your patient.